Hey, I'm Andrew Herndon, and this is Change Your Model, and You Are Not the Model. I want to read you something. This is a quote from the Tao. It's in my book. We look at it, and we do not see it, and we name it the equable. We listen to it, and we do not hear it, and we name it the inaudible. We try to grasp it, and do not get hold of it, and we name it the subtle. This is called the form of the formless, the semblance of the invisible. That's from the Tao Te Ching, chapter 14. I forget which translation that was. There are many translations. Most of them are similar. But I encourage you to seek out spiritual guidance from all directions. All right? So in my book, I have something that I call the extra conscious field. So we have our consciousness, access and phenomenal consciousness. And then we have the world around us, right? Some people think that we have our consciousness in a subconscious. Some people think that we have this greater social consciousness. And I think that it's even bigger than that. So I think that the way that language models work, the way that they relate concepts in a mathematical construct that is too complex for most of us to understand, the relationships between so many parts of words and how they are disassembled and reassembled. I think there is something on a universal physical scale similar to this, similar to string theory, similar to a lot of concepts that we have in that multidimensional concept that gets bigger and bigger, right? So we have to think, is it possible for something that I do now to be related to something else that happens in my life? Can I be setting a prompt in motion the way I would in a language model and have that slowly filter through all of these relationships? Therefore, can I be influencing my future? I'm not going to rule that out. I believe that there is a subtext in between things that connects all things. People call it God. Some people think you are God. I think you are an antenna. I think you are a receptor. And I think it goes both ways. And I think everything that exists, whether it's planets, soulless creatures, whatever you want to call it, has something. But only certain things can exert their will over this force that we really don't know. I call it extra consciousness. I call it the room upstairs. I call it this idea. You know, the Tao calls it the Tao. Right? It's kind of nothingness, but it's a kind of everything all at once. The same way that we think we know God. The same way that we think we know ourselves until we start examining. Right? And realize, oh, these things that built us, we didn't choose them. Right? So you've got to choose those things. And you've got to choose how you represent yourself in the world. And when you make different decisions, believe it or not, the world comes to you. Not in the perfect way that you think it should, but in the way that it does, because everyone is constantly running a model. Everyone is constantly being in touch with the rest of the world, with the rest of humanity, with whatever else is in the cosmos. And that internal will is always a negotiation in the background that we don't even really completely understand. There's no way to understand, even for us, like the smartest people I've ever talked to, math whizzes, PhD and beyond, do abstract math that, like, you look at this board and you're like, what is that? I have no idea what that means. But I'm in this meeting and I understand the context of it. Those people, they still don't understand exactly how LLMs work. And LLMs are just the tip of the iceberg for what AI is going to be. Okay? So these maps of relationships are very important. Our further larger field is very important. So it's not just what you tell yourself, but it's what you project into the world. And we do this through meditation. We do this through self-concept. We do this through this concept of becoming, of just knowing, believing it to be true is important. Okay, believing that I am capable of becoming this next version of myself, knowing what that is and believing I can be there, right? And this is different. I'm not saying like if you had your ankle chopped off, I'm not saying you can just believe you can grow a new ankle. As far as I know, no one has ever done that and no one ever will. It's a little easier to say, well, if I'm just starting to have something like cancer and I believe I can beat it, that will help me beat it. That's definitely true. If you believe your immune system is tough and can do something, that's going to be more beneficial for you than if you don't, right? If you believe that you're always getting sick and then you get cancer, you're going to get very sick very quickly. And if you believe you always beat sickness and then you get cancer, you probably will have a little better time in that beginning. The data is hard on this, and I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, all you need to do is believe and you can get out of it. But you do need to believe. You do need to put that out there. You do need to believe that you can become something, that you can be better, that you can heal yourself, that you can be this thing that you want to be. Because again, that's the first step to getting there, right? Not believing that you can basically seals the fate that you will never be there. So regardless of how woo-woo you want to get with this idea of extra conscious field, this idea of the subconscious influencing, this idea of the larger consciousness, the mass consciousness of the group, all of that, you don't have to get all into that. You just have to know, if I don't believe I can do it, pretty much seals my fate, right? There's no arguing with that. How to get yourself to believe that you can be something is a little bit more difficult. Okay, you truly have to convince yourself. You truly have to think about it. And sometimes you might want to be a billionaire. You want to be something more than what you think you are right now, right? That jump from being you, making $45,000 a year, to being a billionaire, sure, you could win the lottery. You could believe you're going to win the lottery, and maybe you will. But a jump to believing that you could be a $90,000 income, $150,000 income, maybe even $1 million income. You definitely can believe that. You can see yourself being that. You can see yourself being the neighbor across the street. Okay, you can visualize that and your body will respond to that and you will understand that. So I'm not telling you to just go out and just believe I'm going to be the president of the United States and do it. Sure, if you've been believing that since childhood, you might get there. If you've got another way, if you're on like a path, you're a lawyer or a senator or something, and there's a clear path, that obviously you should believe that you're going to be the president, right? If there's a clear path. And maybe there's not a clear path. Anyone can be the president, so I'm not saying you shouldn't believe that. I'm just saying you should understand the limitations of your belief, that your body will believe. What you will actually believe is achievable for yourself. You can't just pie in the sky say, I'm going to be a billionaire, right? You don't want to say, oh, I'm going to be $1,000 richer than I am, right? You can believe that you're going to find $1,000 or whatever, and maybe you'll get that. But you need to believe that you can achieve something greater than where you are, so that way you will get there, that you're capable of being that. So I use weight loss a lot of the time. Right? A lot of people want to be thinner than they are. I lost 50 pounds recently. I believed I could. For a long time, I didn't believe I could. I was in my mid-30s and didn't believe I could lose weight. I was not to say I didn't believe I could lose 50 pounds. I just didn't believe I could be back to my 25-year-old weight. I thought, oh, well, people always gain weight when they get older, right? And it's true, you do. Like, just by matter of general principle, as you age, you generally gain a little bit of weight. But I just believed, oh, I could probably lose 5 or 10 pounds sometime, and it just kept gaining 5 or 10 pounds, right? Until one day I just said, you know what? I can be this version of me that I want to be. I can be this much lighter. And so once I started believing, looking at myself and saying, oh, I see the trimmer version of me. I see who I can be. And I would like look at myself in the mirror and say, yes, yes, like stuck my stomach in as much as possible. Say, yes, this is me. This is me. And a month later, I started doing more things, little things, subtle things. A month later, I started doing more things. So now I'm changing my diet I didn't even plan to change my diet. I just started eating less. I just started doing more walking, more stairs, more basic stuff, not big gym stuff, not a big workout plan, nothing like that. I just believed that I could be there. And 8 months later, I was about 50 pounds lighter. And of course it goes up and down, like I said. We're not a hockey stick. Stock market, right? So in this case, it was pretty good hockey stick down, right? 50 pounds, that's roughly a fifth of my weight. Okay? So, boom. All of a sudden, I'm under 200 pounds for the first time since I was in my 20s. Congratulations, me. This is great. Now where do I go? Because my goal is to continuously improve, right? My goal is to maintain or continuously lower, although I don't really need to be that much lower, right? I'm in a place where I'm very happy with myself and I don't need to worry. And I never worried. I just knew I could be this weight. And now I am. Okay? I'm not saying it was an easy path. I'm not saying that there's a part of me that doesn't grieve Taco Bell. One of the things I did, stopped eating fast food on a regular basis. I didn't consciously do it until eventually I realized I hadn't eaten fast food in like a month or two, and then I was like, you know what? I'm good with that. I'm good with not eating fast food. I don't need that anymore. I'll just go to the grocery store when I'm hungry and I'm out. And that's not hard to do, right? Fast food is convenient, but we don't need it. 7-Eleven hot dogs are convenient, but we don't need them, right? We can go one step beyond to say, oh, there's a grocery store 3 minutes away. Let me just do that instead of pulling into this Taco Bell, right? So again, my belief, reaching out into the world, reflecting back to me. Okay, I didn't necessarily plan how I was going to lose this weight. These things just kind of started happening. They started coming together, these various factors, right? So you don't need to have a grand plan. You need to believe, and you need to believe that the world around you will respond when you believe. Okay, that's what I call the extra conscious field, what we started talking about, right? And you don't need all the woo-woo stuff. You just need those two things. You just need to believe that once you actually believe in yourself, within yourself, that you're capable of this change, and you start expressing it internally, it will externalize as well, all right? And the right path will come to you. And this is true of most things. You do need to take action, but that action will also come to you. It's kind of a 50-50 thing. If you just don't do anything, if you don't even say like, you know, the first thing I'm going to do now that I am a person who weighs 200 pounds, I know I'm that person, I can believe I'm that person, I'm going to be that person. How would 200-pound me do this version, do this thing, right? Take one action like that. Take one action towards that direction so that you start believing that it's possible, right? The next thing you know, you'll be like, whoa, I lost 5 pounds this week. Great. And then maybe the next week you gain 3 of them back. And then the next week maybe you lost 7 pounds, right? So you're going to be on this thing. Don't worry about it. Just remember, I will be this. And the more that you actually believe that you're going to be that, and that you are that, and that thing is you, the more it'll show up. So I'm not saying you have to just only visualize it. I want you to take inspired action. I want you to live as if you're already that thing. And I want you to change the limiting beliefs inside you that are holding you back. It's not enough to just want it. You need to remove the things that are blocking you in your mind. Okay? So like those things that are the recurring things. I don't know exactly what I did to remove my love of Taco Bell. I can't tell you that like I was like, oh, in 7th grade I had my first Taco Bell and it was the greatest thing on earth. I did not think that at all. Okay, but I did come to terms with how I think about food more broadly. I did come to terms with being a child and a boy who was always told to eat more, to finish your plate. And then when there was leftovers, oh, give them to the oldest boy because he needs to eat the most. I did cycle through that. I did tell myself, you know what, that was fine for a 15-year-old. That was fine for a 13-year-old. But it does not suit me at 45, right? It does not suit me at 44 or 43 or whenever it was I made that decision, right? I made it consciously and forgave my old self for that. I forgave the part of me that had the belly. I said, it's okay. You didn't realize you could change. You didn't realize at the time you could be this version of yourself. You just accepted that you were moving through this stage of life and that pot bellies happen, that dad bods happen, right? Because everybody you know has dad bod, right? Everybody you know has kids and stress. The other thing that I did is I cut out a lot of the things that gave me stress and retrain that. And I'm not going to go into all of that, but I want you to know that it's not just a one-size-fits-all thing. The key is to start with knowing what you want to become and believing that you can do that. And in order to believe that, we're going to go back through all of this cycle. We're going to go through this change your model philosophy. We're going to go through the Yantum book, right? The You Are Not the Model book. We're going to have a lot of exercises that we can do. Or just follow that one simple rule. Intentionally become something. Believe that you can be it and intentionally seek that life. Intentionally make decisions within your model. And even if you don't go through all this model construct that I've got, if you don't go through all these exercises that I've got, if you don't go all through all this internal rigor, if you do one thing, intentionally believe that you can become something and intentionally move towards that, and the universe will respond. I'm Andrew Herndon. This is You Are Not the Model. At Change Your Model. Find my book on Amazon. You Are Not the Model, with my name. Link in the description. Thank you very much. Change your inputs, change your outputs, change your life. You can become exactly who you want to become. No questions asked. I believe in you.